hope you are having a super fantastic day. Thank you so much for joining me, SP Whitaker, for another episode of my podcast, I Choose to Be Her. Happy, empowered, and we can't forget resilient. So, remember when I did my relaunch episode? And hopefully you're saying yes. If you're saying no, I want you to go back and listen to it. It's the first episode of my relaunch. But during that episode, I said I would kick things off by discussing what being happy, empowered, and resilient meant to me. Well, today let's talk about the H in her and why I say that it stands for happy, although it's really about happiness, but it wouldn't make sense to say I choose to be her, happiness, empowered, and resilient. So we're going to talk about the H being happy. So let me ask you this. Have you ever really stopped to ask yourself, am I truly happy? Now, come on, I want you to be honest with me. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself that question? Well, if you're anything like me, that would be a resounding no. It's just not something that we give a lot of thought to. Let's be honest, right? We just go through life not ever really evaluating if we're happy or not. Now, if you said yes and you're just one of the few people in the world who actually stopped to do that, I applaud you. But for most of us, we never stop to ask ourselves that question. We just go through life on this roller coaster of emotions, trying to figure out why we're going up and down, up and down, up and down on this roller coaster that we can't seem to get off of. And it's not that we don't want to get off of the roller coaster, but we just haven't stopped long enough to take the time to figure out how. Besides, what does being happy really look like anyway? I think ultimately it's based on you as an individual. Like being happy to me may look different than being happy does to you. It's sort of like trying to define success, right? It's all relative. What I think success looks like or is may look totally different than what you think success looks like or is. So instead of me telling you, here are the things you should do to find happiness, I decided to take this approach, which is the same approach I decided to take in my own life. Because you see, someone could give you a checklist and say, if you do the following 5 things, you will be happy. Or happiness lies at the end of this checklist. But the reality is, you could go through all of those steps, get to the end, and still not be happy. Now, don't get me wrong. There's definitely some credence to that, right? There's a lot of science around it and things like that. So you could definitely use those things as guidelines. And in fact, I would encourage you to do so. All right, so let's get to it, shall we? One definition states that happy means an enjoyable or satisfied state of being. Ooh, sounds kind of cool, right? So I decided in my introspection to evaluate what it feels like to be happy. What does it feel like to be in an enjoyable or satisfied state? How do I know when I've arrived? And how do I maintain this state of being? But before I get there, let's start with what I've learned happiness is not. Did you know that one of the most common mistakes that we make in our pursuit of happiness is basing our happiness on external things like people, places, things, and even events? Well, that is so far from the truth. Our happiness should not be based on other people. It should not be based on places. It should not be based on things or events. Now, can happiness be found in these things? Yes, they can. But I want you to keep in mind that happiness found that way is always short-lived or temporary. For example, you're in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, significant other, doesn't really matter, but you're in a relationship. Everything is going great. You are basing your happiness on this relationship. You're getting along, you don't have any disagreements. And the moment things get rocky in the relationship, there goes your happiness. You're back on the roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down. Or let's say you buy a new car. For me, it would be a nice Audi, right? You're all ecstatic about this new car. You keep it all nice and clean. You're like, man, it looks so good in the garage. You have this wonderful feeling when you're driving around. Look at me. My car is so beautiful. You even enjoy the new car smell, right? I mean, that's like a smell you just can't get enough of. Then one day you wake up and it's just another car. What happened to your happiness at this point? It's gone because you based it on your new car. You based it on a thing. Or let's say you finally get that promotion that you've been working so hard for. Well, you're happy in the moment. Everything is going great up until you begin to feel the pressures of your newfound responsibilities. Now you're not so happy about the promotion. You see, happiness is the key to success, yet success is not the key to happiness. Your mental attitude governs your happiness. It's not the external conditions. Again, your mental attitude will govern your happiness. It's not external conditions. So what I've learned happiness is, remember that definition I told you about earlier? That happy means an enjoyable or satisfied state of being? Well, let's break that down so that we can really understand what that means. So, what is enjoyable? Well, enjoyable is to receive pleasure or satisfaction from something. What is satisfaction? The fulfillment of one's wishes, expectations, or needs, or the pleasure derived from this. Isn't it funny how even saying these definitions, it's like my voice changes because I'm envisioning pleasure, receiving pleasure. I'm envisioning the fulfillment of my wishes and my expectations and my needs. Right? So it's kind of funny because as I'm saying it, I'm like getting all happy over here. Okay, let's look at, okay, I digressed a little bit. Okay, so state of being. State of being is the overall physical condition of a person. It's not a state of having been or will become, but it is the state of being right now. It's being in this state, in this moment. Now let's put all of that together. Happy means receiving pleasure or fulfillment of one's wishes, expectations, or needs, or the pleasure derived from those things right now. It's the state of being that emerges from how we feel within, how we feel about our lives, our achievements, our sense of belonging, our self-acceptance. It's the state of well-being and contentment. You see, I had to get to a point where I loved me and I was proud of me. I was accepting of me and I was happy with me. Now, will things happen in your life to make you feel sad, mad, or shoot, even downright angry? Absolutely they will. That's a fact of life and something that you can't avoid. Unless you live somewhere in a bubble isolated from all mankind, which you don't. So you will experience these things. But the bottom line is, while these things will happen, and probably multiple times in your life, you must take heart in knowing that there's happiness waiting for you on the other side. Now, the amount of time it takes to get back into the state of being is in direct relationship with how you process and go through these moments in life. See, I found that I am in full control of my own happiness. The moment I based it on another person, place, thing, or event, I lost that control. So it takes effort and intentionality to be in a state of happiness. It's not about walking around with a smile on your face all the time, which could be fake and phony. And we're not talking about being fake or phony. It's not about having all the money in the world, although those will solve a lot of problems, or going on, a nice vacation, which now that I think about it, is something I could really use in my life right about now. But it's not about those things. It's about how good you feel on the inside. That will naturally be seen on the outside. So I encourage you today, go on a quest to learn more about you. And I want you to embrace those things about yourself that you can't change. And change the things that you don't like that you can. And most importantly, choose to be happy. See, life is so short. You deserve to be happy. Don't get to the end of your life and wished that you had taken the opportunity to live a happy life versus one where you were just existing. Remember, you have full and complete control of your happiness. So let me leave you with this final thought. It is not enough to say that you want to be happy. You must walk happy, talk happy, and most importantly, be happy. Now that concludes this episode, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you for listening to me. I definitely appreciate you, and I hope that this brought value into your life. If you are not already subscribed to my podcast, make sure that you click that subscribe button now so that you'll receive any of my future notifications. All right, I hope you have a great one. Again, thank you for listening, and look, come back here for another episode of I Choose to Be Her, happy, empowered, and resilient.